Here's Trump earlier this morning announcing his win.
America has given us an unprecedented and powerful mandate. We have taken back control of the Senate. Wow, that's good.
I think that we just witnessed the greatest political comeback in the history of the United States of America.
Global's Washington bureau chief Jackson Proskow has been following it all and has been part of our network's election coverage and joins us again this morning.
And those eyes are barely open. I guess it was a late night last night.
Jackson, walk us through this historic win.
Yeah, good morning to both of you. You know, if 2016 and Trump's victory then felt like a surprise, last night was clear. It was a clear victory, a red sweep, a clear repudiation of the Democratic Party. And really what it is a realignment of the American political system. Not only did Donald Trump win handily, he made inroads with a multiracial coalition. He made inroads with Latinos, he made inroads with men and with women, and in Democratic areas like New York State and Virginia. And all of it suggests that Democrats simply were not selling the right message for the time. Now, they already faced an uphill battle because 75% of Americans going into this election felt that the country was headed in the wrong direction. That's a tough hill to climb. But at the end of the day, Democrats' message about Donald Trump being unfit for office or a threat to democracy just did not carry the same weight as real Americans' concerns about the economy and about immigration, and economy specifically, and the cost of living may have been what won the day for Donald Trump.
Now, Jackson, not to be lost in all of this is that the Republican Party, they're also on track to win control of the Senate and possibly the House as well. What would that mean for Trump's agenda?
Yeah, and of course, Donald Trump also appointed 3 Supreme Court justices in his first term, giving conservatives the majority there. All of this means that Trump could effectively have unchecked power, and he could implement his agenda really rapidly here with very few roadblocks. One thing to keep in mind, of course, is that members of his cabinet or future Supreme Court justices would have to be confirmed by the Senate. Trump is looking at such a comfortable majority in the Senate that even if 1 or 2 moderate Republicans decide to break with him, doesn't matter. He's got the votes to get these people through. And I think you will look at the Republican Party falling in line completely with him now as if they hadn't already, because it's pretty clear he has a very clear mandate from the American people based on what we saw last night.
Jackson, what happens to Trump's criminal and civil cases now that he's been elected?
Well, the federal level ones, which are the most daunting for him, the ones brought by special counsel Jack Smith, they'll be done. I mean, look, Jack Smith can try and keep proceeding with this if somehow he were able to get a trial and conviction before Trump is sworn in, which is not going to happen at this point. Trump could just pardon himself. The more likely scenario is that these investigations just kind of fizzle out, because once Trump takes office, takes control of the Justice Department, he can just make the investigations go away. It's done. It's over. This doesn't solve his problems in New York State, though, and there is still a sentencing hearing set in that case coming up in just about 2 weeks' time. So we'll have to see what happens there. That's the, of course, criminal hush money case.
All right. And finally, Jackson, when are we going to hear from the Democratic nominee? Are we expecting to hear from Kamala Harris sometime later today?
Well, Harris effectively called off her own watch party last night. We are expecting to hear from her at some point today. At least that's the promise coming from Democratic officials, but we don't know when or where. I assume people will want to hear from President Joe Biden as well, because the finger pointing within the Democratic Party has already started. And you've got some people saying, look, it was a bridge too far to think that any candidate had a realistic shot when, as we talked about, 75% of Americans think the country's headed in the wrong direction. You've also, though, got the very obvious problem of the fact that Joe Biden promised to be a bridge to the future and save democracy. Instead, he decided to try and run for a second term. Obviously, that didn't work out. But in doing so and waiting so long to drop out of the race, he may have actually handed the keys to American democracy right back to Donald Trump, who he defeated back in 2020.
All right, Jackson Proskow, thank you so much for your coverage. Soon you can get some rest.